What's up, guys? It's the Brian Drew Show on May 7th, 2020. My guest is Gordy Tong, a ufologist who's been on 4 times before. Gordy's got a Bachelor of Science in Zoology from UBC here in Vancouver. And today we're going to talk about the different types and shapes of UFOs over the ages as they've changed. So welcome back to the show, Gordy.
Yeah, thanks, Brian, for having me on again.
Yeah, this question started when I was talking to you about the airship UFO phenomenon in the United States back in 1896 and 1897. People saw these airships when America had nothing in the air at that time. So we want to talk about the different shapes of UFOs we've had and different orbs and lights and all kinds of stuff.
Okay, anyone who's researched the UFO phenomena today has noticed that UFOs can appear in almost any shape and color and different sizes and so on. So, yeah, at one time people thought they were seeing airships in the sky with human-looking, people maneuvering and running these airships. And Jacques Vallée goes into that quite a bit in some of his books. That the phenomena seems to be adapting to various, various cultural expectations, or it's keeping up with our science, or even going past what our modern science is capable of, our technology. So it's almost like it's a little bit ahead of us. Like, the airships appeared in America before people had airships, right? And now, according to the secret space program, whistleblowers, we have UFOs, man-made UFOs that have anti-gravity, anti-propulsion systems. They're triangular in shape, okay? But there's been rectangular-shaped UFOs, sphere-shaped UFOs, UFOs that don't appear to be solid, they appear to be nuts and bolts. They appear to just be balls of light or orbs. They're called UFO orbs. So, just about every color you can imagine, or multicolor. There's been UFOs with multicolors. Okay. Now, Jacques Vallée says some of these UFOs can change shape as they're being observed. They can, or they can split in two or three. There's a great variety, of different types of UFOs.
You want to start off with the ancient world, like 40,000 years ago in Australia, there's cave paintings of grays. Well, those aren't UFOs, but I think in the Bible refers to, or Alexander the Great saw 2 flying saucers help him blast a wall he was trying to attack. Something helped them in a battle once. Yes,
yeah, there are some stories about Alexander the Great and maybe ancient people seeing like the Bible talks about fiery chariots. Okay, that Elijah went up in a fiery chariot. Again, it didn't look like a typical UFO, but maybe back then it did look like a fiery chariot of some kind. Eric von Daniken actually borrowed the Bible. I think he went to Catholic school at one time.
Yeah, he says as a kid in Catholic school, that kind of inspired him.
Yeah, and he read the accounts of people having encounters with beings, and the Ezekiel story. Ezekiel the prophet sees these wheels with eyes, or wheels within wheels, that kind of thing. And so he was wondering. Well, yeah, he developed this theory of ancient astronauts based on his assumptions that maybe some of these beings that are and craft that are described in the Bible are just UFOs or aliens.
And I guess they're probably different shapes then, or maybe we don't know really what the shapes were they saw in terms of a chariot.
Well, they can change their shape. Aliens have the ability to shapeshift, but these UFOs have been seen shapeshifting, and Vallée noticed that in his research, that these UFOs can shapeshift. Well, why does a UFO have to shapeshift, or a cloak, or sometimes they can disappear or appear to be invisible and then suddenly appear again? Sometimes they just appear to be like stars or lights in the sky, and other times,
Yeah.
they have an actual geometric shape, like a cylindrical shape, dish shape, sphere shape, triangle shape. So there's great variety.
I think one theory of them changing shape is if they're devas, like angelic, they can take on whatever form they want, and they can change their form as they're flying around because it's like a living being, like a deva. That's one explanation.
In fact, I think there was a book saying that what we call UFOs, unexplained phenomena in the sky, this phenomena, according to one author, it does seem to, appear and shapeshift and appear in whatever form. And some aliens, they can appear in a great variety of forms as well. I mean,
yeah, we talk about aliens as well. Like greys are the most ubiquitous, right? 3.5-foot greys with big eyes, big heads.
Yeah, but Dr. Carla Turner told you interviewed abductees, and they saw some of these beings shapeshift. People claim they've seen aliens that look like what they think. They look like ancient gods, ancient pagan gods, like Isis or something. Or
oh, really?
Or they can appear. If these are fallen beings, as some Christians believe, or some researchers believe, or John Keel says that if you really want to understand the UFO phenomenon, you also have to study demonology. Well, demons can appear in a great variety of forms too, and angels. Oh, well, according to the book of Enoch and some Christian researchers, demons are actually the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim when they die. The Nephilim are these demigod beings or giants or people that they can look human, but they have sometimes very large statures or huge. But
what are the Nephilims in ufology? Are they ancient giants from the ancient world like Sumeria and Babylon? Or are they aliens?
Well, in ancient...
those that came down from above? Is that what it means?
In
Nephilim?
ancient hieroglyphics or cave paintings even, there's depictions of aliens and what appear to be non-human beings. Beings that when you look at the pictures, like you mentioned, the Wajina of the Aboriginals of Australia, they have big heads, black eyes, they have kind of, so people have called these things, gods, or, the term God is applied to in ancient times to these beings that come from the sky, right? That appear to fly over. Like there was a variety of shapes of UFOs that appeared over a German city. It was depicted in a woodcut, and some of these UFOs or these objects, they were spear shaped or they were circular, or
Yeah, what century was that? I've seen pictures of that. It was like hundreds of years ago.
That picture is on the Google image search.
I think it was Nuremberg, right? Nuremberg.
It could have been Heidelberg or Nuremberg or some city.
People describe them as cylindrical and I think round, and they're kind of fighting with each other, like a battle going on.
That's right.
Battle.
Yeah, you've seen the picture, and so there was a variety of shapes even back then of things that were
thousands of witnesses, right? The whole town, the whole city saw it.
Yeah, the whole town saw these things. But when there's been, let's say, major UFO sightings over places like the Hudson Valley or the famous case over in Arizona, the Phoenix
lights in March of 1997. It was like about a mile across.
People saw these lights and they looked like a chevron shape that blocked out the stars.
And it went on for 5 hours over about 3 different states for 5 hours, thousands of witnesses, including the governor.
People didn't see this chevron-shaped UFO. They just saw lights in the sky that were in a chevron shape, right? But they didn't see something blocking out the stars, but other people did.
Viewers can see videos of it. Just look at the Phoenix Lights videos. There's actually videos taken that night.
Yeah, I mentioned Charles Lamoureux in one of my last talks. He's seen these UFOs over Vancouver with night vision equipment, and night vision scopes.
I just wrote to him this week. I want to get him on the show. Like, he's got a YouTube channel.
Yeah. Well, some of his UFOs just look like orbs of different shapes, and some of them might look a little disc-shaped. Some of them are just orbs, and some of these orbs are small, some of them are big. Some of them got closer to a condo or apartment downtown.
Yeah, we should talk about orbs. So the thing that comes to my mind, they could be like a deva or a spirit sometime. It's not a solid object. It's not a spaceship.
Well, in certain places in the U.S. And even certain haunted cemeteries and haunted places, people have seen orbs as well. You have videos and pictures of orbs in haunted locations. I'm a professional photographer. I've taken pictures at a lot of locations. When I was shooting film, when I was using a film camera, I didn't pick up many orbs in my photos at all. But when I switched to digital, and digital cameras are more sensitive to other spectrums of light, including infrared, and I have a camera that it can switch to full spectrum. It can see into many light.
Well, that's cool. Yeah.
And with this camera and another camera I was capturing all kinds of orbs in places. And I mentioned Brian Fuster's place after he passed away. It was poltergeist. I captured orbs in his library and in his living room.
Well, that's happened to me too.
Yeah, but Brian Fuster's sister said that they saw a large orb at a family gathering after Brian died, and they wondered what the orb represented. They thought, is it Brian visiting us?
Maybe it's Brian. But a Buddhist would say it could be a spirit, either a ghost or a deva. Doesn't that seem reasonable to you?
Well, there are human-looking ghosts, right?
Yeah, but some could be just an orb.
So it could be a human spirit that might appear, or it could be a demon appearing as a human spirit.
Well, human ghosts usually look human, but the Buddha did describe when before his enlightenment, he would see devas, and originally he would just see lights like an orb, and then he would see more detail. So an unenlightened person might see an orb,
Well, there's been ghosts of animals that have been seen, like ghost cats, ghost
like
monkeys.
Al Matthews, when I first met him, he took my UFO course at the newest school board. He was telling the class about a ghost cat that he saw. Came right up to him.
Yeah. So yeah, the question of what are ghosts? Are ghosts the souls of human beings that are caught in some kind of limbo or purgatory kind of situation? That's one explanation. But there are some ghosts that want to continue, or spirits that want to continue to talk to people, and they channel. Yeah, you could write an entire book with the help of spirits. Or some women in the past wrote some books using a Ouija board. So sometimes there's just very brief communication. Like Al Matthews says, after their dad died, the family, there was people that said that the father appeared briefly and then disappeared, never to be seen again. My brother claimed that after my dad died, my dad appeared to him briefly, and then but when it's something ongoing, when this spirit of what is a loved one keeps appearing to you and it becomes like a spirit guide, that's been reported in near-death experience. Well, maybe it's not the human spirit anymore. Like I say, there's been people that have had encounters with a Jesus in near-death experience, but this Jesus says things that he doesn't say normally, that's been.
So it could be a spirit imitating, impersonating someone.
It could be a spirit looking like Jesus. That's why it warns about another spirit,
or it could be look like a family member too, impersonating.
And so when we deal with things that can appear as an orb of light, well, that may be just one form they appear in.
Yeah.
The fairy phenomena. Fairies sometimes appear with, there's a phenomenon called fairy light, where the fairies enveloped with light. Angels have appeared to be luminous. They appear to be enveloped in light. Okay, but UFOs, they can change their shape. They can appear, and sometimes they have what people call a tractor beam, a beam of light. And this beam of light, if you step into this beam of light, you can be raised into the beam of light into the UFO.
Like Travis Walton, the famous case in 1975 with 5 other witnesses in the truck saw
Yeah,
him.
he got too close to the UFO and he was hit by a beam of light that knocked him out.
And then they took him up, and he's gone for 5 days.
And then he was gone for 5 days. So
yeah.
There are shafts of light that have been seen over pyramids in certain places. At the Skinwalker Ranch, in the new TV series, The Secret of the Skinwalker, they've captured a shaft of light near the ranch. You know, at this overlook or cliff area over the ranch, they captured a shaft of light. Okay, so shafts of light are also associated with UFOs, and sometimes the shafts appear to be transparent, but there's a phenomenon called solid light.
So what does solid light look like? It's a beam of light that comes off the UFO and then it stops?
Okay, the closest thing in Hollywood movies to a shaft of light that appears to be solid is the lightsaber in Star Wars. It's supposed to be a lightsaber, but it appears to have a solidness to it. But there's been shafts of solid light that have come off of UFOs. That's been in the YouTube channel Quest. It talks about solid light. Okay, one solid light that this driver in a car saw. This light was directed toward the car, and it was like a tractor beam drawing the car closer to the UFO. You know, like we see in Star Trek, this tractor beam idea. Yeah. Okay, so and Linda Moulton Howe, I met her and I've seen some of her videos. She says that Bigfoot type creatures have been shown lowered in a beam of light from a UFO.
Yeah, okay. Bigfoot. In terms of shapes, we see Bigfoot and flying saucers all the same place. You know, well, with cattle mutilations all at the same time.
In Puerto Rico, we have a creature called the chupacabra. If you read some of the research of Scott Corellis, he's an Hispanic, but he speaks English as well, UFO research. He talks about people disappearing in an area called El Yunque in a jungle area, mountainous jungle area. People have gone into this area and they've disappeared. But people have seen UFOs. They've seen one documentary about the chupacabra. They've seen UFOs jumping in and out of UFOs in Puerto Rico.
UFOs jumping in and out of each other, you mean?
No, chupacabra type creatures.
Jumping in and out of UFOs?
Yeah, coming out of a UFO. But then how there's cases of a beam of light and a Bigfoot creature is lowered in a beam of light. Okay.
Is that still in Puerto Rico, you mean?
No, that's elsewhere in the United States.
But Puerto Rico is a chupacabra.
But the chupacabra phenomena seemed to first be reported in Puerto Rico.
Wow.
Okay. But along with these chupacabra creatures, we're finally animals that are bloodless and are mutilated. Okay. Another name for the chupacabra is goat sucker. It seems to suck the blood out of animals. There's been attacks, I've heard, against humans now, but there are human mutilation cases where the human corpse is bloodless, but certain organs are surgically removed.
Yeah, that's true. It's pretty rare, though. Like, we know about cattle mutilations. That's what Linda Moulton Howe in 1979, that started her whole career in ufology.
Yeah, she wrote
about. The ranchers were saying, and the local police were saying, these are aliens from outer space doing this. And she was just shocked, stunned, and amazed, and she couldn't stop investigating. Now it's 40 years later. She's one of the world famous.
Yeah, she wrote a book called An Alien Harvest, and I saw a video of hers a long time ago called A Strange Harvest.
Yeah. We should tell the viewer her YouTube channel is called Earth Files.
That's right. And it's not just cattle that are being mutilated. There's been wild animals, cats, half cats. She talks about half cats.
Yeah, getting cut in half. Yeah.
That are cut in half. There's been half cat phenomena seen in North Vancouver, and even in my neighborhood, I saw a cat. Now, it doesn't mean it's aliens. It doesn't mean it's UFO related. It's just mean that you just see half a cat. Well, we have predators now in Vancouver. But we have coyotes. No, they could.
Yeah, but coyote wouldn't cut it in half with a laser.
Well, that's the problem. Can a coyote make a cat, cut it, bite it so it's a half cat? But I don't think a coyote can drain the blood out of some of these animals and humans.
Not
Okay, but
surgically remove organs with technical precision that they couldn't even do in a hospital, let alone out in the field. Yeah,
that's
that's
right.
alien. They can't explain cattle mutilations with the surgical
Well,
removal of organs.
people have ascribed aliens to these mutilations. Okay,
Yeah.
she's interviewed people that have seen UFOs and aliens, what appear to be aliens and Bigfoot creatures on their property before, and she saw aliens kind of levitating or a cow into the UFO.
Yeah, and sometimes cows would be dropped through a tree and smash the branches of
Yeah,
the
some of
tree
these
on the way
animals that
down.
are mutilated look like they've been dropped from the sky
Yeah,
or something.
and taking out
There was
trees
a
on the way down.
Yeah, there was a body or a corpse that was found on a pile of coal, and I think it was in Yorkshire, England, and it looked like this body was just dropped from the sky. But some of the animals that have been found look like they've been dropped from some
So we
elevation.
wonder, what is it about cows that they wanted the blood? Like cow blood is similar to human blood. Like cows, we can even take blood transfusions from cows if necessary. So you wonder, is it about the blood? What is it they want, or the organs? It's very
I
frightening.
There's different speculations on why they want the blood. Have you heard of the Dulce papers about the Dulce base?
Yeah, Dulce Base. What state is that? Is that New Mexico? Dulce?
New Mexico. Yeah. If you look
Underground
up
base, right?
the Dulce papers, I was looking at the Dulce papers many, many years ago. And there's been abductees, people like Krista Tilton that have been abducted and taken to the Dulce base. But the Dulce base is supposed to have several levels that are underground. There's an area called Nightmare Hall or something where there seems to be strange genetic experiments done on animals and humans, and so there's been people that have worked there, like Thomas. He was a security officer who described some of this stuff. I don't know what's happened to him. He's disappeared. But there are these what are called DUMBs, DUMBs, deep
Well, we
underground
should do a
bases.
whole video on underground bases all over the world. I guess right now
Well,
we're still working on shapes of UFOs like cylinders and triangles and
okay,
stuff.
well, we have described some of the shapes, and some of these UFOs don't appear to be solid. They appear to just be an orb of light or something. Okay,
Yeah.
but these orbs of light can split, and all of a sudden you see one light become two lights or three lights.
There's
There
even
was
submerged underwater, what's called USOs.
UFO.
There was one that I think in Argentina around 1963, it divided to six pieces. It was one divided into six pieces. And I remember Khrushchev got quite interested in this.
I met a fellow who was sailing in the Bermuda Triangle on a sailboat, and he claimed he saw a USO that was like a light that was moving under the boat, and that spurred his interest in the UFO subject. The water between Catalina Island, there's been USO activity seen there. The recent
Where's Catalina Island?
in California.
Where off of LA?
I think it's not too far from LA, and
So
Newport
they've
Beach.
been seen underwater there, you're saying?
They've been seen going into the water and coming out of the water.
Now, what if that's an American base, a human base, or an alien base underwater?
Well, we don't know what it is.
Yeah, I don't know.
Do we have the technology to create craft that can go submerged into the water and fly out of the water?
Well,
I don't know.
we probably have man-made flying saucers. You believe that, right? So we could probably.
Yes, I believe we have man-made, but I haven't heard of man-made flying saucers that can go underwater and
Yeah, I don't know.
But maybe there are. I don't know.
But one fellow I met saw a triangle come out of the water. He was on a boat, and the captain said, "Hit the deck." So hit the deck. This huge thing, about 50 feet tall, triangle, just off of Vancouver Island here.
Really?
Went from underwater straight up into the air. He saw it. Told me about it.
Wow.
So triangles could be man-made, right? That's one.
Some of the triangles could be man-made, and maybe
Definitely.
some are, and maybe some are not. So,
yeah.
Have you heard of William Tompkins?
Oh, yeah, I've seen him on YouTube.
Before he passed away, and there's a lot of interviews with him. But he claimed he was part of a naval secret program to develop, anti-gravity craft, and some of these, are what we call the UFOs that are now possibly identified as man-made UFOs that
Yeah,
have the
Richard Dolan says
capability.
half of them could be ours, half of them could be alien. So many could be ours.
Yeah, what did Dolan say about the secret space program?
Well, he said there absolutely has to be one. It's probably been going on for decades, and
Yeah.
yeah, and this probably it's gone as far as the moon and Mars, and maybe it's interstellar. And they're probably working shoulder to shoulder with aliens.
Did he talk to people that were whistleblowers?
I know Linda Moulton House had a few. I think Richard Dolan's had whistleblowers as well in the secret space program.
Okay.
Yeah, that really fascinates me. Yeah.
So anyways, you can't say that there's just one shape or size or color for UFOs. They come in all kinds of shapes and sizes.
I guess the flying saucers have been the most common. People still see flying saucers, but you're saying it's not the most common today?
I think there's fewer sightings of saucers now, and I hear there's more sightings of, triangle UFOs, cylindrical UFOs. The Tic Tac UFOs. They were like the shape of a Tic Tac, but maybe 40 or
that was
the
2004. Just last week, the Pentagon admitted that the video was real. The Navy filmed a Tic Tac UFO off San Diego.
But at one time there were, cigar-shaped UFOs. You heard of those? Like George Adamski claimed he saw or was taken aboard a cigar-shaped UFO. But now we have these Tic Tacs that don't seem to have windows or. They just look like a big Tic Tac.
And they said it was the size of a fighter jet,
But the Navy also captured on radar, on their FLIR, UFOs that have a kind of a bit of a saucer shape too, not just Tic Tacs. And the Mexican Air Force, they have seen UFOs that were flying in formation, but they were just like balls of light.
Yeah, that was released. They think they filmed it on infrared because they were looking for marijuana plantations. They're filming in the jet. That's what the job. And then they saw the UFOs go by, and the government actually released it to the public. It's on YouTube. It's quite astonishing. I guess the Mexicans are more open to releasing this than the American government. Yeah, I saw it. Yeah. So they're like just the really bright lights going by. You couldn't make out a shape.
Okay. So so I think.
Some look square or cubical.
There are some are rectangular, some are cube shape. There's just about every imaginable shape and size has been seen. There's been some UFOs that have been seen near the sun. Look like they're sucking the energy or plasma from the sun or something.
Yeah, through telescopes or satellites, right?
So some of these UFOs must be huge. What are they? Are they,
miles across.
How do you survive being so close to the sun with all the radiation and heat? I don't understand.
It's incredible.
Unless these things are not normal, nuts and bolts craft. They're, something else that is not affected by radiation and heat. Well, but I don't think humans have that kind of technology to create something that can suck the plasma from the sun.
Well, not us, yeah.
No, so there are things that are definitely interdimensional. Many scientists say that we live in an interdimensional universe. That the universe is multidimensional.
That would explain UFOs just disappearing on the spot. It's like they go into another dimension, or they have a cloaking device they turn on.
Well,
something like
angels can dematerialize or appear. They can walk among us, they can eat food, but at the same time, they can just vanish into thin air or walk into another dimension.
Yeah, many people have seen UFOs just disappear on the spot without flying away.
That's right.
Common sighting, yeah.
But the aliens have the same ability. They can come in different sizes and shapes and appearances, but they can also dematerialize. Like Valiant Thor, if he wanted to leave the Pentagon, he didn't have to, summon his spaceship or something or crew. He could just dematerialize his body and then appear somewhere else.
Yeah.
So, but that is the characteristic of angels too. The angels can speak all kinds of languages. So that's why there's definitely a connection with beings that are described in ancient texts in the Bible as being angelic, or the Arabs call these beings jinn.
Yeah.
Jinn, or and in other places they're associated with the fairy phenomena. Okay, and there's all kinds of fairies. That some of them are human size, some of them are very small, some of them. But there's pictures of. There's a diagram in one of my books of a so-called an alien. It looked like a fairy alien. It had a helmet, but it had fairy wings. It was very small, but there's been a little tiny UFO. By the way, have you heard of the Spielberg film Batteries Not Included?
No, but the Buddha does describe tree sprites. Some devas can be like, he says, some devas live in flowers, scented flowers or tree bark.
Well, there's been sightings
Little
of
ones.
UFOs in some countries, and these UFOs are very, very small. You know, they're the size of a saucer plate or
Really,
a bowl.
UFOs, yeah.
That small, and that was depicted in the movie Batteries Not Included.
Oh.
Okay. I have a friend that saw a little UFO in this apartment that was haunted in Kitsilano. He said a little UFO appeared to him and looked like it was watching him in his bedroom. But then he's had it. I think he described it as kind of dish shaped, yeah. But wow. It was a small, very small UFO, but it looked like it was whatever it was watching him. And then it disappeared. But then he saw beings that have been described as shadow beings.
But when he said it disappeared, did it disappear on the spot without flying away?
I got to ask him if it just dematerialized or just, you know, some of these UFOs can and beings we call aliens can just disappear through a glass window or through a solid wall.
Yeah, it's like the abduction phenomenon. People get taken right through a window or a wall without damaging the window.
Right. So
something interdimensional. They change the nature of physics or particles. Something interdimensional about that.
Yeah.
I'm particularly interested in the airship UFOs. I guess they have balloons, of course, at that time. But in 1896, they're seen in the Midwest in California. They would even land, and they look like human beings that would talk to people about going to Cuba in the Spanish-American War.
I think in this book by Jacques Vallée, he talks about these airship-looking UFOs.
Does he? Yeah.
Yeah, he does.
And the way it ended in April of 1997, it crashed in Aurora, Texas. It hit something like a windmill water tower. It blew up, left debris everywhere, left one body, and they gave it a good Christian burial. And the tombstone was there until someone took the body out.
Yeah, that's the
and
Aurora
federal marshals came and they told people, nothing here for folks. They collected the debris. So that means probably under President McKinley in 1897, the American government had downed UFO crash 50 years before Roswell. So they might have had the secret technology for a long time.
In that case, if this alien was seen and he crashed into something on his ranch and they buried a body, well, then some beings that we call alien, they seem to have, a body that can die, right?
They describe him as a short man, what we think is a typical.
Okay, well, these type of aliens may not be, of an angelic nature. Okay,
angels it seemed to be physical. They didn't say it was a grave. They said it was like a little man.
Some aliens could be Nephilim. The Nephilim were mortal, but they had, the giants of the Old Testament, like Goliath. I mean, he was mortal. He could be killed.
What about small aliens? Like this was a small man in 1897. Also, 15 different newspapers in Texas described this thing flying around in the crash. So it seems like a very legitimate case. It's not a fake story because it was in 15 separate newspapers.
I don't think it's a fake story. They did see something that, what shape was it, this UFO?
Well, it was the airship. It was coming really slow and low, and then it crashed into this windmill. So it was like
the airship described as an airship?
This was the one that was been going around from the fall of 1896 to April of 1897. Seen in many places all over California and the Midwest, but that's how it crashed. That was the end of it.
Oh, okay.
Just an astonishing case, Jim Mars actually interviewed a witness. He was 7 years old at the time, so he interviewed him in 1973. An eyewitness actually saw it. It's an amazing story. It's in his book, Alien Agendas, I think one of the biggest selling UFO books in history by Jim Mars, called Alien Agenda.
There's a theory that the Greys could be clones. I've heard that theory that they're a clone, but they have some human DNA mixed with something else, but they seem to, be like the slave or servant race for the. That's what David Jacobs believes, that there's these insect-looking mantis-like aliens that are in charge, and the little grays are the worker bees or something. But
Or
they're,
the Greys might be mechanical robots, like
or
biological
yeah, they
robots.
could be android or clone.
They're like a Mac or a PC that everyone
yeah,
uses.
but definitely some of these beings that we call alien are mortal. They can die. Okay.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
they're mortal.
Yeah. But Bigfoot creatures, for instance, they see. I've heard that Bigfoot creatures can dematerialize, so they can appear to be invisible.
Yeah.
There was a case Linda Mountain Howe heard about where some person with a rifle shot a Bigfoot, and this Bigfoot creature's vanished into a flash of light. It just disappeared after it was shot at.
The Buddha described those as well. I have a video from 2012 called Bigfoot, Buddhism and UFOs, and the Buddha described them as yakas. Again, there's some type of deva in the first heaven of the central sphere, the devas of the north, called yakas, and they can appear as Bigfoot, and they can be quite fierce and terrible. But the point is, the Buddha describes them as an interdimensional being. They're not actually physical in this plane. You can see them for a while, they're physical, then they phase out, go back up to the higher realm. So that's why you don't find bodies of them.
There's been some DNA testing on what they think is, Bigfoot hair samples.
Wow. Yeah.
And some of the hair samples seem to have human DNA in it with something else. Okay, so there's a theory that some Bigfoot creatures and some beings that we call aliens are part human, part human, and part something else. They are the children of the Watchers.
Could be.
And so, like, if Hercules was a real, person, and I believe there's evidence that he was. Hercules, I read, was involved with the Olympic Games. The Olympic Games was dedicated to the god Zeus at one time in the city of Olympia, right? Even some of the modern Olympic Games, they still have some I don't know if they're dedication to they don't use the name Zeus, but to the I guess some of the gods of the original gods that were worshipped in ancient times.
So what were these gods? Were they angels, devas? Were they alien beings? What were they?
Well, one theory I've heard from various researchers, Christian and non-Christians, is that these gods, they are the Watchers. They are the fallen ones. But some of these gods created beings that were part human. So you had Hercules, that father was Zeus, and the mother was if you look at all the children of Zeus, he chose women to bear these, these beings, these heroes that are part human and part God. That's why we have the term demigod.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense, wouldn't it? They wanted them to rule. Is that the idea? They would rule the country?
Well, maybe some of these creatures some of these beings were created to be rulers of entire cultures, like certain pharaohs. Some pharaohs don't look fully human. You know what I mean? You have
the elongated skulls, you mean?
You have elongated skulls among the Egyptians. You have elongated skulls among the Bracas people of South America. Maybe some of the Incas as well. So, so some people are reluctant to say that, but they've done DNA testing on the Braca skulls. There's definitely human DNA there, but there's possibly something else. Okay.
Yeah, it's amazing. Seems alien.
Yeah, I mean, they do. Dan Aykroyd was in some comedy skits.
The Coneheads, right?
The Coneheads.
Saturday Night Live. I remember that.
Where did they get the idea that some aliens have a cone head?
And they said they come from France. The Coneheads. They come from France.
That's right. That's where they all come from, France.
Yeah.
So
I should refer the viewer. I did 2 videos with Brian Forster, like the world-renowned authority on these elongated skulls, and he said the DNA indicates they came from the Caspian Sea area about 3,000 years ago, and they came to Peru, and then they were killed off 2,000 years ago. They must have had a DNA of 149. He was saying super high IQ, super high IQ, and the brains are at least 30% bigger than ours.
That's right. So they did have human DNA detected in the skulls, but there may have been something else
Yeah,
besides
some
human
type of
DNA,
superhuman. Yeah.
or something. So where does that
Yeah.
leave us
Anyway, I
now?
guess we covered all the shapes and sizes of UFOs, including orbs. Some aren't really physical; they seem to be a light or a spirit. I think some orbs have even had little faces in the orbs,
Yes, I have a
indicates a
friend that
being.
was at a campground, I think in Soyuz somewhere, uh, and he felt a presence in the campground, so he took some pictures with his digital camera, and some of the orbs seem to have faces in them. That he looked at the pictures of the orbs he took, and
Oh,
yeah,
right in that photo, he sees faces. That's cool.
yeah. Well, like I say, haunted locations can have orbs,
Yeah.
and orb like spirits.
Yeah, that would have a spiritual explanation, likely, especially if it's
Uh,
a cemetery.
a cemetery. I photographed um, orbs at a cemetery. There's a haunted place in New Westminster. It's called Irving House.
Ah,
I was allowed to take some pictures of the different rooms, and I captured orbs there that I've never seen anywhere else. So like in the nursery upstairs, I captured a fairly large red orb. Don't
wow.
I've never seen a red orb except that one time when I was up in the nursery at Irving House.
So this
But
looks like
that
we're
place,
talking about ghost phenomena. That's not really the same as UFO phenomena. It's lower
well,
realm rather than higher
actually,
realm.
actually, the ghost phenomena or poltergeist phenomena is associated with the UFO phenomena, according to Jacques Vallée and
Yeah.
people that have done research at the Skinwalker Ranch. There's everything at the Skinwalker Ranch. You have
Well, I would
or
agree it's associated, but I guess I'm making the difference in lower realm and higher realm. Like if a
okay,
Davis
well,
flying around a flying saucer, that's higher realm. Whereas a ghost, a ghost in your cemetery, that's lower realm generally, I would say.
yeah, some people categorize certain spirits or orbs as higher or lower. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Anything else we want to cover on shapes of UFOs?
I can't think of anything else, but you
Yeah.
know,
Well, that's good. I mean, we could stop there. It's just one topic. I guess it's good for the YouTube audience for some videos to keep them short to the point. We can do other subjects.
sure. Okay, well, we'll call it a wrap then.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for that, Gordy. We've covered lots of shapes. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, like you've been looking at this UFO phenomenon for what, over 15 years now, or
Oh
12,
yeah,
15
about
years?
that long. Yeah, seriously.
So you've learned a lot of things, and the phenomenon is not as simple to explain as you first thought.
Yeah, it's very
Same.
complex.
It's very complicated and, like I said, multifaceted and interdimensional, and it could be extraterrestrial too. We're not discounting the possibility it could
Yeah.
be of an extraterrestrial nature. But hey, angelic beings can be of an extraterrestrial nature. They can be in what is called the second heaven, as Ellie Marzulli calls it.
Ah,
The second heaven is anywhere in the universe.
yeah.
Okay, or they could be just in our atmosphere which is called the first heaven in the Bible.
Okay. Yeah, they could be indigenous or they could be extraterrestrial. A lot of sources.
Yep. So yeah, people have to do their homework if they want to connect the dots, be good detectives, try to figure out the stuff. There's a lot of information out there, but it can be very confusing for people. When there's,
Oh yeah, it can be maddening.
I,
Yeah.
it gets way. It's like some people say it's like a hall of mirrors. You're not sure what you're seeing sometimes, or whether it's real or whether it's not. Or
Yeah.
the phenomenon does act that way sometimes.
I should tell the
Oh,
viewer
and,
where I have a UFO playlist on both BitChute and YouTube. Go to my playlists and scroll down playlist and the one UFO.
and
This
Jacques
one
Vallée
UFO
says
playlist.
the phenomena can adapt to different expectations, cultural expectations.
Yeah, like the shapes, right? Like the airships and then flying saucers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's like the one step ahead of us, right?
yeah, well, ancient people said they saw things that looked like a flying shield or a chariot, a fiery chariot.
Yeah, flying shield. That's right.
So Elijah was caught up in a fiery chariot. Well, people thought it was a chariot of fire. Okay. In fact, there's a movie called Chariots of Fire.
Yeah,
The
I remember
title of that movie came from the Bible.
Yeah, that was 1982. Remember that?
The word chariot of fire is mentioned in the Bible, in the Old Testament somewhere.
Oh,
So they could appear as fiery chariots or shields in the sky or boats. I think some of the Aboriginal Indians have described, you know, boat of like canoes flying in the sky, canoe-like
canoe.
objects. And then off of Newfoundland, and there's some places where they've seen a ghost ship that looks like a Viking ship that can appear and disappear.
Wow.
And
What
then
if it's really a Viking ship that went down and sank and the spirit continued? That's spooky.
or the famous Flying Dutchman. It's a masted ship
That's in South Africa, right?
that is being seen in South Africa and other oceans of the world. But
That's
it's
real.
luminous. It can appear to be, it has a green glow or a glow to
But
it.
wasn't that a real ship that sank and everyone died?
It was a real ship at one time. And the story of the Flying Dutchman, what I've heard, is that this sailor wanted to, carry people and I guess goods in a ship, and he didn't, and he was caught in a terrible storm. Some of the crew and passengers were saying, "Hey, please get us back to a port." And this captain was so, let's say, obsessed with just sailing in the storm, and he said, I think he said something, I think he said something, I'd rather be cursed by God or something, and instead of bringing the ship back to, but the ship went down and everybody died. And so
in a way he was cursed and he was there perpetually for centuries.
Yeah,
right?
he said something that, it sounded like a curse against God or something, and then all of us. But another sailor.
But did that go on for centuries? Was that centuries ago?
I don't know the actual date of the first sighting, the real ship that was called the Flying Dutchman. But later, it's been seen. I think there was a member of the royal family that saw the Flying Dutchman in one of the oceans of the world.
Did they only see it at night, or they see it during the day?
Sometimes it's seen at night. Sometimes it's maybe in a fog, or sometimes they see this strange thing that's glowing. But that's a whole big subject, and but one more case is to end it maybe on a good note is John Newton. Heard of him?
No, don't think so.
He was a sailor on a slave ship taking slaves. And his story is in a movie called Amazing Grace. But he was, sailors can have a very bad reputation. And, he thought he was so depraved that, there was no point. He and his, I don't know if he was captain or just a crew member on this boat. But again, they were threatened by this terrible storm. And Newton thought, well, we may go down in the storm. But he prayed and said, he asked God to, be gracious or to save them. And the storm quickly subsided after that. And then he didn't die in the storm. And then he went on, he quit being a sailor on a slave ship. Then he became a pastor of a church, and he wrote the hymn, Amazing Grace.
Oh,
so
wow.
Here's an example.
So he cleaned up his act because of that.
Yeah, but there's been other sailors like Robin Graham. He was the youngest American sailor, started at age 16 to sail around the world. But he was caught in a small sailboat in the Indian Ocean, and it was a terrible storm. He was demasted. He had a chance of, dying in that storm. But again, he prayed and said, God save me. There's a movie about him, and I've read his book. And I've talked to Robin Graham. But because, the storm was quickly calmed down after he prayed. And through incidents like that in the Indian Ocean and other things, he wrote another book called Home as a Sailor about his time in Montana, when he was building log cabins and things. And there's been many things that have happened in his life that appear to be not by accident. It's almost like there's something was helping him or guiding him or things that he could not explain as a sailor.
So. That kind of thing happens, sure.
Yeah, that happens to a lot of people. So there are people that experience some kind of divine intervention or help
I think
when
so, yeah.
they're facing harm and they're in harm's way. Okay, so
Yeah.
uh,
Even
but there,
aliens can do that. Like aliens have healed people. There's cases of that.
yes, aliens allegedly have healed people, and I've heard people that have been healed, or you know, our friend Doug, he claims that he was healed so he could have a child, right?
Yeah.
Because he was told that he wasn't able to have a child for
And he
various
did,
reasons.
yeah. And we
But
met his son, yeah.
After the being aliens healed him of that or something, he was able to bear us a child.
Yeah, yeah.
But now he told me, I think he's a bit concerned about his own child being abducted.
You would expect that because his mother, he even described his grandmother having incredible experiences in Pennsylvania. His mother in the 1930s in Saskatchewan saw a flying saucer that looked like a hat on the farm. It even blasted a rock that was in their way. They did them a favor, blasted a rock from the farm so they can plow.
Yeah, some UFO abduction researchers say that this abduction phenomenon is generational. It's not just one generation.
Yeah, it's generational.
Or experience.
And that was the hat-shaped UFO. But that's a whole other subject, generationally. We're still in shapes of UFOs, but that was a hat-shaped UFO.
Okay, well, we'll talk about other things as, you know, if people are interested and have questions, or if we have some other subjects we can.
Yeah, they can even write questions below the videos here for future videos.
Yeah, if you have any further questions or comments that might help us to have some other.
Yeah, just type them below the video. We'll do more.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Gordy. Very good.
Okay, thank you again, too.
Thanks for watching my videos. Please share these videos with your friends on any other video platforms. Like, subscribe, donate to the Brian Ruhe Show, and keep these videos coming.